I'm just trying to wrap my head around what in the world I just witnessed when I was looking on the news quarters. So, you probably would have guessed, but George Pickens was traded to who? The Cowboys. The offer was George Pickens and a 2027 6th-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys for a 3rd-round pick in 2026 and a 2027 5th-rounder that went to the Steelers. Am I mad about this trade? I mean, not really. I feel like you could have gotten a little more for George Pickens, but man, you are a madman, Mr. Jones. So, the Dallas receiving corps consists of CeeDee Lamb at the 1, George Pickens at the 2, and I believe Jalen Tolbert, unless Brandon Cooks is still there, but I'd rather have Tolbert in the slot. So this kind of helps Turpin because not only does he not have to do receiving duties, but he can be in there as a 5th string. So, not exactly that, but he can focus solely on the return game, which is really good for him because he is extremely good at the return game. I personally feel like it was a mid-trade. I think the Steelers could have gotten a little more. But Dallas, I think they stole Pickens on that one. And I know this isn't related to football, but as far as basketball, my picks not doing so good in the 2nd round. So in the 1st round, I actually got only 2 first-round series wrong, both in the West. I got Lakers over Wolves, which the Wolves won in 5 games. What the hell, LA? Yeah, both LA games sucked when it mattered most. Lakers lost in 5, but then the Nuggets won in Game 7 against the Clippers. Let me tell you, if you go back and watch that basketball video, you would know I had every single game up to Game 7 correct. And then Game 7 I lose. Like, what the fuck? Clippers, how can you do that to me? I got every single game pick, winner correct. For every game except for Game 7. Because you decided to fold over, a wet piece of paper. I can't even think of it because y'all sucked so bad in Game 7. And now, in the 2nd round, Boston lost to New York in Game 1. They're playing tonight, as well as OKC and Denver. Denver's up 1-0. Golden State's up 1-0 against Minnesota. Indiana is ahead 2-0 against Cleveland. Now, don't get me wrong. Cleveland was injured from head to toe. Mobley was out, Garland was out, and DeAndre Hunter was out. So, injuries are really killing the Cavs right now. If all of them could just stay healthy, they should win this series. But then again, Pacers are a really good team, but I was not expecting them to be this good. And for the love of God, Minnesota, can you please beat the fucking Warriors? I cannot stand them and I do not want to see them in another NBA Finals. That would be a huge slap in the face to Klay Thompson for leaving. But enough about basketball, let's get to football. Welcome back to Grizzly Talks Football. We are continuing the conference season reviews and predictions of 2024 and 2025. This episode, we got the Big 12, my conference. As in the conference that my team is in, the BYU Cougars, are in the Big 12. This was the most chaotic conference out of all of them as far as the Power 4 goes. And we're definitely going to talk about this one. If you haven't already, make sure you check the link in the description for the entire playlist. You can have every single episode out there that has already been posted there. And you'll also have future episodes whenever I do post them. Also, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. Without further delay, I don't want to delay any further. Let's get to some Big 12 predictions and season reviews. I think a lot of you know the drill, but if you don't, we have 5 categories. Obviously, we have the teams that are elite, teams that are above average, teams that are decent, teams that are disappointing, and then the teams that are complete ass. Sound good? Perfect. Let's get straight to it. First team on this list, we got Arizona. Just an automatic disappointing. The only thing that saves this team from being in the ass tier is that top 10 win over Utah. This team went 4-8 and only won 2 games in conference play, including that Utah game. They also beat Houston. But every single ranked team they played, they got smacked. Even Colorado smacked them in UCF. They were obviously coming off of an Alamo Bowl win and I believe a 10-3 season, where they were actually in the top 15. They were actually expected to be a pretty solid team in the Big 12, but man, they went to shit. I don't know what the fuck happened to Noah Fafita, but man, he looked lost out there. Obviously, Ted McMillan was definitely the only right spot of that offense because I don't know what they were doing on the Russian attack. Well, Quali Conley was decent, but other than that, yeah, not great. So Noah Fafita had just under 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 12 picks, a big regression for Fafita. Speaking of Quali Conley, he had 750 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. Then they had a running back with 8 yards a carry? Why didn't he get more reps? And then obviously you had the man at receiver, Tator McMillan, 84 catches, 1,300 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Only 4 players were drafted from this one, including McMillan, to the Carolina Panthers in the first round. You also had Jonas Vanea, interior offensive lineman, going to the Dolphins. Tyler Loop, the kicker that the Ravens got that's going to be starting this upcoming season, going to the Ravens. And Ja'Cory Krusky-Merritt, the guy that got 8 yards to carry just this past season, is going to the Commanders. I'm sure Arizona may have a bounce back year, but man, this was not great look at all. Unless we got Arizona State. Now, I am going to probably be delusional for this one, according to some people, but if I put Indiana in the elite tier because they made the playoffs, it's only fair that Arizona State gets their flowers too, so here you go.
Elite!
The scatter show at Arizona State really surprised a lot of people because this team was expected to be dead last in the conference, and they won it. Like, what the hell? That's how crazy this conference was, and I'm all here for it. 11-3, obviously, like I said before, they won the Big 12 title game. They won 6 straight games at the second half of the season, and then went to the playoffs and lost to Texas in heartbreaking fashion. And surprisingly, they lost to Texas Tech and Cincinnati. I think both of them were road games. But all 4 of the ranked teams that they played besides Texas, they won them all. And yes, that includes us, the BYU Cougars. And a huge part of that was because of Sam Leavitt and Cam Scatterboot dicing up defenses like it was nothing. Like, Sam Leavitt didn't have a bad year, like almost 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks. He was great. But the man in charge of that offense was Cam Scatterboot. 1,700 yards on almost 300 carries and 21 touchdowns. Damn. Oh yeah, there was also a guy named Jordan Tyson who had 1,100 yards on 75 catches and 10 touchdowns. Oh yeah, and Cam Scatterbill also had 3 receiving touchdowns as well. So he had 2,300 total yards and 24 touchdowns. And obviously, he was the only guy drafted in this year's class. Cam Scatterbill drafted in the 4th round to the New York Giants as a running back. I am really hopeful that he is going to be the Giants' bowling ball, like the good version of the bowling ball. Oh yeah, there's also Shamari Simmons, a safety, who was undrafted as well. A spectacular season, and Sam Leavitt is actually coming back this upcoming season. So maybe Arizona State runs him back, maybe they make a bowl game, maybe they're still ranked. Who knows? The possibilities there are endless. Next we got the Baylor Bears. Decent. 8-5, lost the bowl game to LSU, the Texas Bowl, but they did have an 8-win season, which is very shocking to say, but unfortunately no ranked wins. Did you know that Baylor actually started the season 2-4, and then they won 6 straight to end the regular season, and then they lost the bowl game, which is crazy turnaround. Over the upcoming season, their schedule is going to be a lot tougher, but I gotta be honest, well done Baylor, you actually almost beat us, but at the end of the day, you guys had a pretty successful season. I mean, Sawyer Robertson was balling out, like 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns to 8 picks. Bryson Washington had over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. And then the receiving corps was led by Josh Cameron, 10 touchdowns on 750 yards. And shockingly, nobody was drafted from this class. I think because a lot of the players are underclassmen. They're coming back now. And the only undrafted free agents were Steve Linton, edge defender, and defensive lineman Garmin Randolph. Surprised that the talent wasn't anywhere close to being drafted, but hey, it was a pretty solid season. Next up, we got my team, the BYU Cougars. As much as I want to put them in elites, I do have to be fair. They are above average. Most definitely above average at that. I think they were 12th in the media preseason polls. Everyone knows the media doesn't know shit. An 11-2 season could have made the playoffs if we beat a team, Kansas. Also a loss to Arizona State, but we did blow out a then top 15 Kansas State team, which was cool. Started the season 9-0, including a rivalry win as well against those Utah Utes. It was a little controversial, but I will say that was a hold. So Utah, how about you stop coping about it and start worrying about making a bowl game, because y'all didn't. But man, I was pretty shocked at how well we did in the Big 12 this past year, in football and basketball. I sure hope the future looks bright for those Cougars in both sports. Oh yeah, and also forget to mention the absolute smacking in the Alamo Bowl over Colorado. And then the media decides to ride Deion's freaking coattail in, the part down there. But on the season, it wasn't bad. Like, offensively, it didn't look like we were a 10-win team. But I think our defense was the main reason for it, because Jake Retzlaff, he had just under 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns to 12 picks. LJ Martin led rushing with 7 touchdowns on 700 yards, and receiving-wise was led by Chase Roberts, 850 yards and 4 touchdowns. But alas, reality is reality, and Cincinnati ended up not making a bowl game. Brady Sorsby wasn't terrible. He just under 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. Then you got Corey Connor, who had 1,100 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns, and on the receiving end, it was led by Xavier Henderson, 700 yards, 4 touchdowns on the receiving end. As far as draftees, only one player from Cincinnati was drafted. Offensive tackle John Williams went to the Packers. And undrafted free agents, I believe they were already signed, if not already. Corey Connor, running back, and interior offensive lineman Luke Kandra. Pretty shocking season. Like, this team could easily have made a bowl game if things went their way. This was a big what if for 2024 for Cincinnati. Up next, we get the Colorado Buffaloes, or should we say just Coach Prime's team? I don't know. Either way, they're easily above average. I can't lie about it. I can't put them a decent. Just like the BYU Cougars, Colorado could have potentially made the playoffs in the Big 12 title game if they don't lose to Kansas. Oh yeah, they also lost another game to Kansas State by 3 points. And then they lost to Nebraska at Lincoln. And of course, they lost to those BYU Cougars in the Alamo Bowl. But other than that, a 9-4 season is not terrible at all for Coach Prime's squad. Obviously no Travis Hunter or Shador this upcoming season, so I'm very interested to see what Coach Prime does in the following season, 2025. Maybe he goes like 6-6 or something. Maybe he takes Colorado to the playoff. The possibilities are there, as always. Shador, he had a pretty good season. 37 touchdowns, 10 picks, 4,000 yards. Obviously, they didn't run the ball a lot. And as far as receiving, it was actually led by Travis Hunter. 96 catches, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. But can't forget LeJontay Wester with just under 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. 4 Colorado players were drafted. Travis Hunter was selected with the number 2 pick in the draft by the Jaguars. And then Shador Sanders was picked in the 5th round. And then LeJontay Wester and Jimmy Horn, both wide receivers, went to the Ravens and Panthers. Undrafted free agents include Shiloh Sanders, who I believe signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cameron Simon Gregg, another safety, edge defender BJ Green, and wide receiver Will Shepard. Coach Prime doing some work. The work doesn't stop there, though, Coach Prime. Deion, if you're watching this, good luck. The list I'm using is out in order, so next team on this list is the Kansas Jayhawks. Whew, they went right back down to reality after a couple of magical seasons, but in my opinion, they're still decent. Ranked to start the year, sadly for them, they started 1-5 and 2-6, but then they won 3 of their last 4. And all 3 of those wins in the last 4 games were against ranked opponents. Beat a ranked Iowa State, beat a top 10 BYU in their own house, and then beat Colorado as well. In terms of Kansas standards, this wasn't a terrible season considering they have been the bottom of the barrel for a decade and a half. The schedule next year appears to be a little lighter, so maybe they can make another bowl game, but who knows with Kansas. Up next, we got the Houston Cougars. I'll make this quick. Disappointing. I'm not putting them as tier, no. I will say Houston pulled out some improbable wins, including against a ranked Kansas State and against Utah. They also nearly beat Oklahoma, who finished the year 6-7. And then they got blamed by Cincinnati and Iowa State. crazy stuff. It was just Houston was more inconsistent than ass. That's just the whole thing about that. And boy, did that offense suck. I'm not even going to talk about the quarterbacks because 2 of them had 800 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 8 picks. I gotta be honest, I was not expecting the offense to play like this garbage. Like, dude, no running back had over 500 yards, no receiver had over 500 yards, no quarterback had over 1,000 yards. That's how bad the offenses were. No surprise nobody got drafted here. I would put him in S tier, but this team was so weird this year, like 4-8, but they had some improbable wins that nobody saw coming. This team was just all over the place. Up next, we got the Iowa State Cyclone. I'll definitely put him in above average, easily. Finished 11-3, unfortunately lost the Big 12 title game, which would have most likely put him in the playoff. Actually, would have definitely put him in the playoff. But alas, they could not beat Cam Scatterboo and Arizona State. Did you know this team started 7-0 and was ranked in the top 10? I would not have expected that either. They were actually supposed to be in the top half of the Big 12, not contending for a title. They ended up beating a ranked Iowa team, beating a ranked Kansas State team on their way to a Big 12 title game where they sadly lost to Arizona State. But at least they beat Miami in a thriller of the Pop-Tarts Bowl. If only they didn't lose to Texas Tech and Kansas in back-to-back weeks. I will say, however, Rocco Betts looked like a pretty good quarterback for the Cyclones. 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns to 9 picks. You also had Carson Hansen of 750 rushing yards with 13 touchdowns. And you ended up having 2,000-yard receivers. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, each with 1,200 yards. Noel with 8 touchdowns, Higgins with 9. They both got drafted. Jaden Higgins went in the 2nd round, and Jalen Noel, I believe, went into 3rd round, both to the Houston Texans. Crazy stuff. They're joining, I believe, Xavier Hutchinson in the Houston Texans. What is this, the Houston Texans Cyclone receiving corps? Other players that were drafted were Darian Porter in the 3rd round to the Raiders at corner, and offensive tackle Jalen Travis to the Colts in the 4th round. Other players that weren't drafted, they were undrafted free agents, safety Malik Verdon, and defensive lineman J.R. Singleton. Just an out-of-nowhere, very good season for Iowa State. I think for some of these teams, this was an out-of-nowhere good season. I'm talking about the 4 that I have currently at the top right now. But it gets even crazier. Next up, we got Kansas State Wildcats. I'll say above average. Bad loss to BYU is a 13th-seeded team. Lost to Arizona State and Iowa State. And even Houston? But 9-4 with ranked wins over Arizona and Oklahoma State. Not a bad season. And even won the Red Bowl against Rutgers in another high-scoring shootout. And let me tell you, Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens were just behemoths for the offense. Johnson had 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns to 10 picks, 1,300 yards for DJ Giddens and 7 touchdowns. Avery Johnson even ran for 7 touchdowns, so 32 total. And out of nowhere receiving core, but Jace Brown, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. 3 players were drafted from Kansas State. Jacob Parrish, corner, went to the Tampa Bay Bucks in the 3rd round. DJ Giddens, running back, went to the Colts to back up Jonathan Taylor. And safety Marquez Siegel going to the Niners. Kansas State was like one of the top teams heading into the season, but they did finish above average in the top half, so honestly, it wasn't all bad. Up next, we got the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Ass. Oh boy, yeah. They were legit ass. How the fuck does a team start 3-0 and then lose their final 9 games? Biggest win was against Arkansas, who made a bowl game, but that doesn't really mean much. 3 of the Big Ten losses were one-score games, but even then, they still wouldn't have made a bowl game either then. 3-9. All 4 of the ranked teams that you played against, besides Utah and BYU, you got spat. They were also one of the top teams in the conference headed into the season, but then they just fell flat on their face for no reason. At least a good amount of talent came from this team to the NFL. Alan Bowman, 16 touchdowns, 2,400 yards, 12 picks. Not completely awful. Ollie Gordon did not have 1,000 yards, but he did have like just under 900 with 13 touchdowns. And then there's Dejon Stribling. I hope I said that right. with 52 catches, 882 yards, 6 touchdowns. Then you also got a guy named Brandon Presley who had 90 catches, 760 yards, and 7 touchdowns. 4 players were drafted from Oklahoma State, believe it or not. Nate Martin, linebacker, went to the 3rd round to the 49ers. Colin Oliver, linebacker, went to the Packers. Ollie Gordon ended up going to the Dolphins, and corner Corey Black went to the Giants. Other undrafted free agents included safety Trey Rucker and offensive tackle Dalton Cooper. Like I said, it's a good thing a lot of talent came from this team to the NFL, but other than that, this was an awful season. Up next, we got TCU. I gotta be honest, I was shocked when I saw this team. They were decent. 9-4, including a bowl win in the New Mexico Bowl, a throttling of the Raging Cajuns from Louisiana. Damn. But I was not expecting TCU, after starting the season 2-3, to go out there and win 6 of their last 7 games, including the bowl game. Obviously, no ranked teams. They lost badly to SMU. It was actually a very high-scoring affair, too. Lost by 1 point to UCF, then lost to Houston by 11, and lost to Baylor. But this team definitely had some eyes. I think Sonny Dykes is still out there, so not terrible, man. And surprisingly, Josh Hoover is the new quarterback for this Horned Frog squad. Just under 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 11 picks. Good God. Not much really to show for the run game, except Cam Cook had 9 touchdowns, and the receiving corps was led by Jack Beck, who had just over 1,000 yards, 62 catches, and 9 touchdowns. 2 players were drafted in this TCU squad, and they were both wide receivers. Jack Beck went to the Raiders in the 2nd round, and in the 3rd round, Savion Williams went to the Packers. I personally think Jack Beck is a huge pickup for the Vegas Raiders. I sure hope he does well. But other than that, this was a very surprising 9-win season for TCU, but maybe they're on the rise? Let's see. Up next, we got the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Decent. 8-5 season. Unfortunately lost to Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl, but this wasn't terrible. This team started 5-1, but they ended up beating a top 15 Iowa State team on the road, so that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, no air raid offense anymore. I don't think Texas Tech runs that again. I hope they do, because they're actually really good at it. I think the last quarterback they had that ran that offense was, Patrick Mahomes. Not sure what he's doing in the NFL, but I'm sure he's doing great things down there. Anyways, on to Texas Tech. Baron Morton, 3,300 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 picks, so not terrible. Tosh Brooks had 1,500 rushing yards, 5 yards a carry, and 17 rushing touchdowns. Damn. And then on the receiving corps, you had Josh Kelly with just over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. Only 2 players were drafted from the squad. Offensive tackle Caleb Rogers went to the Raiders in the 3rd round, and Tosh Brooks went to the Bengals. Tight end Jalen Conyers and wide receiver Josh Kelly were among undrafted free agents from this team. Texas Tech is an above-average team, but they did have a decent season, so honestly, not terrible. Up next, we got the UCF Knights, one of my secondary teams. I'm not putting them in ass. I'm really just going to put them in no, not decent. I'm putting them in disappointing tier. Nearly beat 2 ranked opponents, one of them on the road, which was Iowa State, in a 3-point game. Unfortunately for this team, they only went 4-8. They won 2 Big 12 games, including one against TCU and a blowout over Arizona, which is crazy to think. This team went from making a bowl game in their first year with a conference to not even making one this year. And now Gus Malzahn is gone, and now guess who's back? Scotty Frost. This was definitely not a passing season because, 2,000 total yards amongst the passing. Because let's be honest, this was the R.J. Harvey show. 1,500 yards, nearly 7 yards a carry, and 22 touchdowns. Damn! And of course, you got Kobe Hudson, who is in the NFL now as an undrafted free agent, with 770 yards and 4 touchdowns. Speaking of R.J. Harvey, he was selected in the 2nd round by the Denver Broncos, and then Mac McWilliams actually went to the Eagles at cornerback. Like I said before, Kobe Hudson, I believe he was drafted to the signed by the Panthers as an undrafted free agent, and then Deshaun Pace at linebacker and B.J. Adams at safety. I think Adams is on the Dolphins now. Sucks to see some talent go, but that's how you regroup and rebuild. Maybe with Scott Frost, they're going to go back to what they had in their glory days of the American Athletic Conference and have some very good years. Up next, we got the Utah Utes. As much as I want to put my rivals in the S tier, no, I can't do that. That would be too biased. I'll be disappointed though. These guys, I believe, are most of the favorites to win this conference besides Oklahoma State, and they ended up not making a bowl game like I said earlier. Of the 4 ranked opponents they played, they only beat one of them, which was Oklahoma State at the time. What? How did Oklahoma State get ranked that high and then they lost 9 straight? Could have beaten BYU and Iowa State, but lost in dramatic fashion. They lost to Arizona as a top 10 team. There was a time where they lost 7 straight games. Yeah, Utah was 4-0 and in the top 10. Then they lost 7 straight to miss a bowl game. I'm not sure if Cam Rising's coming back. He might be. I'm not too sure, but if he does, it might be bad news for Kyle Whittingham. At the quarterback position, the best one was Isaac Wilson. 10 touchdowns, 11 picks, because, Rising was injured for a lot of the season. 1,500 yards. Mike Bernard at least had a solid season, just over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. And also, you got Dorian Singer leading receiving corps with 700 yards and a single touchdown? What? Only one player from this Utah team was drafted this past draft. And it was a 6'7", 250-pound tight end by the name of Caleb Lohner going to Denver. Undrafted free agents include Brand Queeth, tight end, running back Micah Bernard, defensive lineman Junior Tafuna, and linebacker Kareem Reed. I believe Reed is with the Broncos. For Big 12 title contenders, this was a shockingly bad season for them, and I enjoyed every bit of that. And finally, we have the West Virginia Mountaineers. Honestly, put them in decent. Whatever. Couldn't be a single ranked team open this season against Penn State? What were you thinking? Lost the backyard brawl, lost to Iowa State and Kansas State. Kansas State was a bad blowout. And then they got beat bad by Texas Tech. Sad. They went 6-7, very disappointing season for West Virginia standards, and they lost to a ranked Memphis team. So yeah, this was definitely very, very disappointing for West Virginia standards. But honestly, I think they were like around average last season, and now they're like right around decent as well. So honestly, that's why I put them at decent. Garrett Green didn't have a completely awful year. 2,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 12 picks. 3 players had 700 plus rushing yards, including the quarterback Green, who had 6 rushing touchdowns. C.J. Johnson, 734 yards, 11 touchdowns, and Shaheem White, 845 yards, 7 touchdowns. The main man receiver was Hunter Clement with just under 750 yards and 5 touchdowns. And only 1 player was drafted from the squad, offensive tackle Wyatt Milam, going to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 3rd round. Undrafted free agents include corner Garnett Hollis and defensive lineman Sean Martin. I gotta be honest, this was just such a weird year for the Big 12. Like, so many teams right around the middle, and then you got Arizona State and Oklahoma State on the opposite ends of the spectrum. That's gonna do it for the 2024 season reviews. Now let's get into the predictions for the 2025 season. And now we have the season predictions for 2025. You see the contenders tier, above average, mid-table, below average, and bottom feeders. I changed it up a little bit. But let's just get straight to it. Kicking things off, we got the Arizona Wildcats. This team might not make a bowl game even with Noah Fifita, but I still think they're going to be about below average. I'm going to say 5-7. Their most notable games are against ranked teams that were from this past season: Kansas State, Iowa State, and BYU. Brent Brennan is trying to rebuild this roster, but, it's not going to be much easier in 2025. This is actually arguably a harder schedule this time around, so yeah, I don't think Arizona is really going to make a bowl game again, but if they do, good for them. It does feature winnable games, so honestly, this team could either go 5-7 or they could go like 8-4, something like that. Out of conference includes Hawaii and Weber State, and I believe there was like one more game that's not going to be counted towards the conference record. Not exactly sure, but it's going to be rough for those Arizona Wildcats. Next, we got the Arizona State Sun Devils. Sam Levitt's coming back, and I think at least 9 wins would definitely be up there. I feel like Arizona State could definitely be a contender here. I'm going to predict 11-1 or 10-2, one of those 2 seasons. Notable games against Mississippi State out of the SEC, Texas Tech, and Iowa State. This team does have to play Colorado and Iowa State, but knowing it's Arizona State coming back, I know they only have Cam Scatterboo gone, but now you got Jordan Tyson still? I'm not sure, but this team could definitely contend for a Big 12 title again, I can tell you that. Up next, we got the Baylor Bears. I'll be honest with you, it's going to be a little bit easier for Baylor, and they got red hot at the end of the season up until the bowl game. So, honestly, I feel like they could be right around 9-3 and 10-2. A lot of people are expecting Baylor to be a little bit of conference threats this year. I think I agree. They do have some big games between Auburn, Arizona State, Kansas State, but they also got SMU, who was an ACC runner-up. By the way, I'm doing ACC tomorrow. If Baylor can get past Auburn and SMU, and even Arizona State, they might contend for a Big 12 title and a playoff spot. Sawyer Robinson looks great. I think he might have a breakout year, and Baylor might be on their way to their first playoff in their history. Up next, we got the BYU Cougars. BYU flew under the radar last season, but now everybody's watching them now. We returned most of our starters. I feel like this team could, at best, go 11-1. But I must say 10-2, but right around 9-3 or 10-2. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move Baylor and BYU to contenders just because. The biggest stretch, according to this site, is the stretch between Utah, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. Obviously, we dodged a bullet avoiding Arizona State and Baylor this upcoming season. However, we do have to play Colorado, which is going to be a little bit concerning. If BYU can get through that stretch with at least 2-1, they might be able to make the Big 12 championship game and make the playoff. Any three of those teams can make the playoffs. Up next, we got the Cincinnati Bearcats. Yeah, I would say like right around mid-table. Honestly, I'll say 6-6. Their biggest games are against Nebraska, Iowa State, and TCU. If they can win those games, they could definitely make a bowl game, but that's pretty much all they're getting. At least Bowling Green and Northwestern State are free wins in the non-conference slate, unless you're Miami of Ohio. And yeah, Cincinnati's not exactly going to contend for a Big 12 title either, because they're going to get at least 3 conference losses, pretty much guaranteed. But hey, Big 12 was chaotic, so maybe I'm wrong. Up next, we got the Colorado Buffaloes. As much as people are going to say Colorado's probably going to be above average this year, I gotta say, I disagree. 7-5 is really where I would put this team. Obviously, the toughest conference schedule in the Big 12. Luckily for them, they do have Georgia Tech and Delaware non-conference slate. Oh yeah, and also Wyoming, so that's an easy non-conference slate for them, easily. But once conference play starts, it's going to be a tough road for Coach Prime and that Colorado team. No Travis Hunter, no Shedeur Sanders, or Shiloh Sanders for that. So a decline is definitely expected, but how bad is it going to be? It really depends on how well Coach Prime can build this team up. The fact that he got Arizona State and Kansas State to end the year, that's tough. To even have a chance at a Big 12 title, they need to get past BYU, a road game at TCU, and Kansas State. That's going to be hard for them. But like I always say, don't ever count out Coach Prime in primetime games. Up next, we got the Kansas Jayhawks. They had a down year this past season, but I think this year, even without Devin Neal, I think this team could still win 8 games. Maybe 9. The toughest games, according to CBS, or what is this, Buffalo's Wire? What the hell? Why am I looking at this site? Anyways, according to this site, the notable games are a road game to Missouri, a road game against Texas Tech, and a home game against their in-state rival, Kansas State. Missouri's probably going to be a big test, but I feel like Kansas can win that game. And there's also games against Texas Tech, Iowa State, and even their in-state rival, Kansas State, that they have to go after. Whew. Watch out for those Kansas Jayhawks because they are a popular sleeper to win the Big 12. So definitely keep your eyes on them. Key Lyman are coming back. Jalen Daniels is coming back. Lance Leipold could have himself a playoff team. Maybe. Up next, we got Houston Cougars. How about Willie Fritz's first year when Houston won 3 conference games in shocking fashion? I think this team was better than their record showed. I think it was like, 4-8 or 5-7? I think they can at least get 7-5, maybe 8-4. They do have a tough road game at Oregon State. They also have Colorado, Arizona State, and Baylor. Pretty tough. Connor Weigman is actually going to be the starting quarterback, and he could definitely potentially be able to put some scares on that Big 12. Almost beat Oklahoma, almost beat BYU. Like, this team is not to be messed with. You can never count out Willie Fritz. He did that with Tulane for 2 years in a row. It's going to be crazy. Don't be surprised if Houston makes a bowl game this year. Next, we got the Iowa State Cyclone. This team is easily going to be above average. I got to be honest with you. This is a no-brainer in my opinion. 8-4. They're coming off their best season in school history with 11 wins. Nearly made the Big 12 championship win and the playoff. Kansas State's a tough game. Same with Colorado. And they got a tough schedule, but I think with Iowa State's caliber, and I know they had to rebuild the receiving core, but the fact that they could produce some good receivers, this Iowa State team could definitely see a Big 12 title game berth on the line here. Keep an eye out for those Cyclones because they could be under the radar. They could come out of nowhere and win the whole thing. Up next, we got Kansas State. The Wildcats from K-State, they're still Bill Snyder here, but remember when they used to have Bill Snyder? They were contenders all over the place. Yeah, even after him, they're still going to be contenders this year. I'm going to say 10-2. Avery Johnson's coming back, and they got a lot of receiver help in Chase Brown, Jaron Bradley, Caleb Medford as well. Chris Kleiman's doing a very nice job with Kansas State. And man, I will say it, there are 4 teams that are contenders. Kansas State is definitely one of them. And guess what? They're playing Iowa State in Dublin to start the year. That's going to be a game changer. I think whoever comes out of that game with a win, I think is going to be making a Big 12 title push. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Up next, we got Oklahoma State. I think when Oklahoma State has no expectations, they seem to do well. Honestly, I wouldn't mind putting them in mid-table here. I don't exactly think there is a bottom feeder out there in the Big 12. Like, if we learned anything from this past season, anybody can win the Big 12, even the worst teams on paper. I'm going to just say 6-6 for right now, maybe 7-5, but actually no, maybe 5-7. But Mike Gundy has a tendency to really shock everybody when there's no expectations put on his team. He lost a lot of players this offseason, so it's going to be really tough for Oklahoma State to come out alive. So the ceiling could be all over the place, but in the floor, same thing. It really depends on how this season goes. Mike Gundy doesn't have a great season with Oklahoma State. He might be on his way out. Next, we got TCU. I'm thinking 7-8 wins for TCU. Honestly, I think they're still going to be mid-table. Maybe 9 wins. No idea. I gotta say, TCU had such a strange season just this past season. Josh Hoover is coming back, and they got a defense that's looking to improve this upcoming season. They're actually going to have North Carolina and SMU in their non-conference slates, so if they can get past that stretch alive, they could be a dark horse. Watch out for those Horned Frogs, because they are usually teams that can really make an impact. There are teams that can come out of nowhere and definitely put TCU on your list. Next up, we got the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I think they have a potential to go 9-3 this year. I think I can stand on that. They had a top 3 transfer class. They had 3 straight winning conference records for the first time since 1997 with Spike Dykes as their head coach. They have a very easy schedule, to say the least. So to say that Texas Tech could go 9-3 this year, that could really be true because of how easy their schedule is this year. Here come the Red Raiders. Up next, we got the UCF Knights with first-year head coach, once again, Scott Frost. Never ever count Scott Frost out. I think it's going to be a 7-5 season for UCF. Jacksonville State and North Carolina are definitely going to be some tough non-conference teams. I will be honest. Even when UCF is at their worst, Scott Frost picks them back up again. I think this is going to be the case this year as well. The Big 12 is going to be a tough challenge, but knowing that he had experience with Nebraska, maybe this won't be so bad. They're starting probably up to 15 transfers in his first year, so who knows how the season's going to go. And also you got the Utah Utes. Gosh, I hate them so much. And also saw Utah had the New Mexico combo, a little Mountain West kind of connection there. Devin Dampier and Jason Beck. Interesting. I guess I'll say it. I think Utah can go 8-4, 7-5. I'll go like on the high end spectrum of 8 wins. Kyle Whittingham is a good coach. Let me tell you that. It's just Utah definitely had a rough season with the whole Cam Rising situation. If Jason Beck and Devin Dampier can replicate the success they had at UNM, Utah could be a scary team this upcoming season. I hate to say it as a BYU fan, but there you go. I sure hope they don't, though. Because if they do, they're going to be living in my nightmares for a long time. And finally, of course, we got the West Virginia Mountaineers. Rich Rod is back in WVU. Interesting. This is a tough schedule for this West Virginia team. I'm going to go 4-8 or 5-7, maybe 4-8. Utah, TCU, and Texas Tech are in the conference slate. Very tough schedule indeed. If somehow West Virginia gets past this with Rich Rod, which I feel like he has a good chance of doing so, maybe West Virginia can build on the future and potentially turn into sort of a C. Slate and Pat White kind of thing in 07 and 06. Maybe. But honestly, the Big 12 is so chaotic, we have no idea how this is going to go. So, that will have to do it, man. I'm excited for this Big 12 season because if we've learned anything, never count any team out. And that will do it for this 2025 predictions, and that will do it for the episode. ACC will come tomorrow, of course. That's all I have for this episode. If you enjoyed, make sure you give this video a like. Make sure you hit the red subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you don't miss a single one of my videos. This is Grizz. I am signing off for now. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace.